We are going to dive deep into the war in Eastern Congo. Well, the mineral-rich east of Democratic Republic of Congo has been unstable more than 30 years since the 1994 what has the Rwandan genocide have to do in this? For example, the instability has sucked in neighboring countries to devastating effects notorious in the 1990s when two huge conflicts dubbed Africa's World Wars resulted in the deaths of millions of people. Well, you're going to get your answer through the show. Just stay tuned to CBM Radio and listen to the Lense. Well, what's happening in Goma? After rapid advance in the region, fighters from the M23 rebel group have entered Goma, well, which is a major city in the eastern Congo of more than 1,000,000 people in the east of DR Congo. Well, Goma is found on the border with Rwanda and shores of Lake Kivu, which is a vital trading and transport hub that is within reach of mining towns, supplying metals and minerals in high demands such as gold, tin, and coltan, which is a key component of mobile phones and batteries and electric vehicle. Well, you might ask yourself, what are the M23 doing in Goma, and what interest do they have in the DR Congo? Well, the M23 are led by ethnic Tutsi who say they needed to take up arms to protect the rights of the minority group. They said that several previous deals to end the fighting have not been respected. They take the name from a peace agreement that was signed on the 23rd of March 2009. Shortly after its creation in 2012, the M23 rapidly gained territory and seized Goma, acts which were met with international opprobrium and accusations of war crimes and human rights violations. Well, later on, the M23 was forced to withdraw from Goma and then suffered a series of heavy defeats at the hands of the Congolese army, along with the UN force that saw it expelled from the country. Well, that might make you think that the M23 fighters then agreed to be integrated into the army in return for promises that Tutsis would be protected. But later on in 2021, the group took up arms again, saying the promises had been broken, and this escalated into the war. Well, right now, my good listeners, you may be asking yourself, is real Rwanda involved in the fighting? You must ask yourself, why does the M23 have Tutsi soldiers and yet Rwanda claims not to be involved? Well, neighboring Rwanda has in the past constantly denied that it supported the M23. But ever since 2012, UN experts have accused it of providing weapons, logistical support, and even ultimately commanding the rebels. DR Congo's government, as well as the US and France, have also identified Rwanda as backing up the group. Well, last year, a UN expert report say that up to 4,000 Rwandan troops were fighting alongside the M23. Well, yes, people claim that Rwanda is helping the M23 just because they think that the M23 is being comprised of the Tutsi minorities. Well, in a statement on Sunday, Rwanda did not explicitly deny that it backed the M23, but instead said that the fighting near its border was a serious threat to its security and territorial integrity. Well, it added that Rwanda was being blamed for the recent fighting on the Congolese authorities, saying they had refused to enter into a dialogue with the M23. A peace process mediated by Angola and involving Rwanda and DR Congo did result in a ceasefire deal last year. However, that soon fell apart and fighting resumed. Yeah. And then the origin of the current fighting. So let's trace back the history of this war in Eastern Congo. Well, the origin of the current fighting can partly be traced back to the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. About 800,000 people, the vast majority from the Tutsi community, were slaughtered by ethnic Hutu extremists. Well, it's a little bit funny. Well, the genocide ended with the advance of a force of Tutsi-led rebels commanded by Paul Kagame, who's now president of the Republic of Rwanda. Well, fearing revenge, an estimated 1 million Hutus then fled across the border, what is now the DR Congo. This stoked ethnic tensions as a marginalized Tutsi group in the east. The Banyamulenge felt increasingly under threat. Well, it should be remembered that the Banyamulenge have been in Congo for a long period of time due to the colonial boundary divisions. Well, and after 30 years of conflict, one of the Hutu groups, the Democratic Forces of the Liberation of Rwanda, which includes some of those responsible for the Rwandan genocide is still active in eastern DR Congo. Rwanda describes the FDLR as a genocidal militia and says its continued existence in the DR Congo is threatens its own territory. Well, it also accuses the Congolese authorities for working with the like the FDLR accusations, which DR Congo denies. Rwanda is unlikely to start off DR Congo unless it is satisfied that the FDLR is no longer a threat to itself or to the Tutsi communities in eastern DR Congo. However, it is widely accused of using the conflict as a way to profit from eastern DR Congo's mineral wealth. Well, this war has not only affected Africa, it has also alarmed the whole world, which has compelled the UN to send its soldiers, which are known as the MONUSCO. Well, a US peacekeeping mission has been in place since 1999. Well, the current force, which is known as the MONUSCO, is made up of more than 10,000 troops. However, of these, only the 4th Intervention Brigade is allowed to carry out offensive operations against armed groups, and it was this force that helped to defeat the M23 in 2013. MONUSCO has been the target of anger from ordinary Congolese who see it as failing to do its job. Our President Felix Tshisekedi, deeming the mission a failure, had asked it to leave by the end of last year. But the departure was delayed, and in December the mission was extended for another year. The Southern African Development Community, a regional grouping of 16 countries, has also deployed a military force to eastern Congo, but it has been unable to halt the rebel advance. Well, South Africa claims that 9 of its soldiers had been killed in clashes with rebels. Then 3 Malawian soldiers have also been killed, the UN said, while the army, like the Uruguay, said one of its soldiers, as part of MONUSCO, had also died. Well, let us see how other African countries reacted to this confrontation between the M23 rebels and the Congolese government. Well, a test exchange between South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame on X was the latest escalation in the fallout over the fighting in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The exchange showed how the situation could spiral out of control. Ramaphosa said on X that the fighting is the result of an escalation by the rebel group of M23 and Rwandan Defense Forces militia engaging the armed forces of the DRC and attacking peacekeepers from the SADC mission on the Democratic Republic of Congo. Well, the post provoked a sharp response from Kagame, the Rwandan president, and he stated on his X page that if South Africa wants to contribute to peaceful solutions, that is well and good, but South Africa is in no position to take on the role of a peacemaker or mediator. And if South Africa prefers confrontation, Rwanda will deal with the matter in that context any day. Well, in the fighting that happened, it's reported that 13 South African troops were killed, and there is a dispute on who opened fire on them. The killing of these soldiers has upped the ante due to the principle of collective self-defense and collective action outlined in the SADC Mutual Defense Pact of 2003. Well, the pact says that any armed attack perpetrated against one of the state parties shall be considered a threat to regional peace and security and shall be met with immediate collective action. So that is why you see South African forces intervening in the DR Congo conflict. Well, South Africa's Minister of Defense and Army Chief have issued strongly worded statements since the deadly clashes. Well, the escalation also led to an extraordinary summit of the East African Community Heads of States that happened virtually on the 29th of January. Well, the summit, attended by President Yoweri Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, and the leaders of South Sudan, Somalia, and Tanzania, reflected the failure to find a way forward to resolve the crisis, where lives continue to be lost and thousands get displaced. Well, President Felix Tshisekedi of DRC skipped the meeting convened by the Kenyan President William Ruto, but in a speech to his nation, Tshisekedi did not pull punches. Analysts say Tshisekedi has a weak hand following the capture of Goma by a handful of rebels who defeated his government troops, not to mention the European mercenaries from the country of Romania fighting alongside them. Well, during the summit, Kagame expressed frustration at the EAC mediation process. and by other mediators like Angola. The outcome of the EAC summit called for a joint meeting with the South African Development Community. Yeah, well, in 2023, the SADC authorities, a regional force, SAMI DRC, to deploy in DRC to the chagrin of Rwanda. According to experts, the deployment of SAMI DRC fueled diplomatic and geopolitical intrigue. Tanzania has troops in the force, but the country never deployed there in the earlier EAC regional force that was expelled by Tshisekedi in 2023 after 1 year of deployment. So does Rwanda have a hand in that conflict? Or like, what do you think? The presence of Tanzanian forces in Eastern DRC has put it at loggerheads with Rwanda because of Rwanda's sentiments that Tanzania has ganged up with its friends from SADC against a small East African nation. But Kagame in his statement said SAMI DRC has no role to play in Eastern DRC and also bemoaned the displacement of a true peacemaking force in ESCRAF. The ESCRAF has had troops from Burundi, Uganda, Kenya, and South Sudan. While President Samia Suluhu of Tanzania has not commented on the issue publicly, but he holds a key role as the chairperson of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation. The situation in Goma has close to 6 countries involved. Uganda, once said way back in M23, has kept a quiet stance since the skirmish broke out. Rwanda, on the other hand, milked much needed political capital from the evolving situation by providing safe passage to fleeing residents, UN staff, and captured soldiers. The M23, a rebel group that has existed in DRC for 16 years, overran Goma on January 26th. According to media reports and FARDC, troops gave in without a fight and fled as soon as the rebels advanced. However, the fall of Goma also exposed another complication. The presence of over 280 mercenaries from Romania who followed suit and surrendered. Well, the mercenaries were reportedly fighting alongside FARDC, but they looked unbothered by the turn of events since their gravy train had left the station. The Rwandan government transported them to Kigali International Airport and were en route to Europe by press time. But the capture of Goma by M23 sparked unrest in the DRC capital Kinshasa, where protesters ransacked embassies of Uganda, Rwanda, Belgium, France, US, accusing the countries for complicity and inaction in the unending crisis in the eastern part of the country. DRC citizens say Rwanda and Uganda have caused instability by supporting various armed groups, while also accusing the above Western powers for turning a blind eye to the injustice in the country because they are profiteering from the vast mineral wealth in the DRC. Well, these are the same people who ask the white man to stay out of their country because they claim that they're not there for the good. So when the white man keeps quiet, they again come out as waves. So that's a little bit confusing. Well, following the outbreak of the violence, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, perhaps in his first major call, urged Kagame for a ceasefire. But fighting has gone on with civilians and soldiers killed and more displacement happening. Congolese citizens say Rwanda must be held accountable for the atrocities it is committing on DRC soil. The UN group of experts has provided a report showing how the Rwandan military is providing sophisticated weaponry to the M23. The rebels have the technology to jam the GPS system to prevent planes from flying into the Congo, says an analyst at the Center for Research on Congo. Well, DRC social media is awash with images portraying Rwanda as an aggressor responsible for the endless suffering of the Congolese citizens. And yet Rwanda says the state in DRC persecutes Congolese of Rwandan ancestry, the Banyamulenge, which it cites as a justification for its intervention. Well, the Banyamulenge are Congolese of Tutsi origin, so that doesn't make them Rwandese. They are Congolese Rwandan origin due to the boundary to the scrum and partition of Africa. Yeah, and the flare-up in Goma has been simmering since the start of the year. And in an address to the diplomatic corps in Kigali in mid-January, Kagame discussed at length the situation in Eastern DRC and gave a heads-up of Rwanda's pending action. Well, Kagame did not mince words when speaking about Tshisekedi, saying The DRC president has served 2 terms for which he was not elected. Tshisekedi and Kagame have had a long-running war of words, but the advance on Goma M23 marked a significant escalation. Well, the transfer of power in Washington from Joe Biden to Donald Trump appeared to be a factor, and Trump's disinterest in foreign conflicts seems to have motivated the march of M23 on the key town for the first time since 2012. And M23 is the most prominent militia in eastern DRC, a region said to be teeming with more than 100 armed groups, proxies, and some independent controlling the mineral trade and responsible for the death of millions of people and the resulting refugee situation in neighboring countries. Well, the M23 is a group of former rebels for the National Congress for the Defense. Well, let's dive a little bit in the history of the M23. Who are the M23? How did they come to be known as the M23? Well, the M23 is a group of former rebels of the National Congress for the Defense of the People, which is abbreviated as the CNDP. It adopted its name from the March 20, 2009 agreement between the CNDP and the Congolese government, which M23 leaders claimed the government reneged on. M23 first captured Goma in 2012, but international pressure and the UN intervention, brigade comprising Tanzanian and South African troops, compelled the rebels to retreat to their enclaves a year later. 13 years later, the group is back with a vengeance and is now calling the shots in Goma. Well, a strategic border town that has blossomed into a trading hub in the last few decades. Goma is also located on the edge of the border with Rwanda and has a population of about 800,000 to 1 million people. Goma is located in the North Kivu province with rich gold reserves and other mineral deposits that has made it a haven for investors and mining executives angling from the latest lucrative deals in his regional hotspot as they jet in and out of Goma International Airport. Well, in other news, we are going to see why Museveni and the reaction about this, why Museveni appointed foreign judges after the Supreme Court declared civilians not be tried in court martials. Well, court martials are courts meant for the army. But well, we've been seeing of recent that some civilians have been tried in court martials. So the Supreme Court has abolished that. Well, President Yoweri Museveni is right now facing fresh criticism following concerns over his appointment of judges with foreign training. Well, Professor Charles Mbazira, a law professor at Makerere University, questioned why Museveni chose to appoint such judges despite their rulings, sometimes going against the government's expectations. The comments happened in the wake of the Supreme Court landmark during that dealt a blow to President Yoweri Museveni's government by limiting the jurisdiction of the General Court Martial over civilians. Well, the ruling has stirred reactions from different political camps, with some government officials downplaying its impact, while others express concerns over judicial independence. What do you think about that? Critics allege that President Yoweri Museveni has always been strategic in appointing judges, ensuring that they align with his administration's interests. However, the recent ruling suggests that some judges are making independent decisions that don't always favor the executive. And the issue of foreign trained judges has also raised questions about Uganda's legal education system, of which some believe that local legal training should be prioritized to prevent external influences on Uganda's judiciary, while others argue that international exposure enhances judicial competence. President Yoweri Museveni's silence on the matter has only fueled speculation, with some Ugandans wondering whether he will change his approach to, judicial appointments in the future. And perhaps the Supreme Court law has also affected the legal team of Dr. Chiza BCJ, who have made a bold announcement following last Friday's Supreme Court ruling, where the court declared that the General Court Martial has no authority, as we said before, to try civilians, making the ongoing trial of Dr. BCJ and his aide Obeid Lutale illegal. So the question is Dr. Chiza Besigye, is Colonel Dr. Chiza Besigye still in the army, or is now a civilian? Well, now Besigye's lawyers, led by Elias Lukwago, have vowed not to appear before the military court and Makinde today. According to Lukwago, stepping into that court would be like giving it legitimacy when in reality he no longer has any power. Lukwago argues that the Supreme Court's decision has effectively shut down the military court's ability to handle criminal cases involving civilians, which he also described the court as hollow and non-existent, meaning any further proceedings against Besigye would have no legal basis. Lukwago stated in one of our interviews that we shall not go to a non-existent court. What is left is just a disciplinary committee for the soldiers, like in the police or prison services. Instead of attending the court session today, Besigye's lawyers held a meeting that Katonga wrote for officers to plan their next steps. Well, despite the Supreme Court's ruling, Dr. Besigye remains in prison. Lukwago and his team have already written to the prison authorities demanding his release, but they claim that the authorities are waiting for official instructions from the Attorney General or the Justice Minister. Well, and this has also compelled the legal experts argue that the Commissioner General Prison, Dr. Johnson Byabashija, is now violating court orders by keeping Besigye in detention. And lawyer Peter Olwe insists that Byabashija should be arrested for contempting of court if he doesn't act immediately. And the Commissioner, Besigye's lawyers have promised to take further legal actions to ensure his release. And well, meanwhile, Professor Christophe Mbazira, another lawyer, and in similar cases, say they would start the process of officially extracting court orders of for other affected individuals who be freed. Yeah, and shall also discover that in other news that ex-minister's wife was following Stark. A prominent NRM mobilizer in Modo Farmer in Busia district has died in a tragic accident involving police officers. Yeah. And in our other news, we shall see that US tells nationals to leave Kinshasa immediately. The US Embassy in Kinshasa has issued an emergency alert advising all American citizens in the DRC to leave the country immediately due to a rapidly the notice released on February 2025 also confirmed the further reduction of the embassy, signaling heightened concerns over escalating crisis in the embassy advised the US citizens to get the national needs. Yeah, and this is right. So in other news, US government agency workers ordered to remove pronouns from their email signatures. Well, that's a funny rule Trump has put away. US government agency workers have been ordered to remove pronouns from their email signatures as part of Donald Trump's crackdown on inclusivity. Shortly after taking office on 20th January, Trump ordered government diversity, equity, and inclusion employees to take post-paid administrative leave. The move aimed to end the onslaught of useless and overpaid DI activists buried into the federal workforce. Emails seen by CNN direct employees at agencies including the State Department, Department of Defense, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to remove pronouns from email signatures. The emails also confirmed that the move was being carried out to align with Trump's defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and segregation. Well, Putin has also issued instructions to support creation of the International Association of NGOs. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has instructed the government, in collaboration with the presidential staff and the Association of Volunteer Centers, to support the establishment of an international association of volunteer and other non-profit organizations along with its activities. The instructions stemming from a meeting with volunteers who participated in the International Forum of Civil Participation, We Are Together, has been published on the Kremlin's website. The directive aimed to enhance international humanitarian cooperation among public associations and non-profit organizations from the CIS member states and other friendly countries. A report on the progress made is to be submitted initially by July 1st, 2025, and will thereafter be provided on a semi-annual basis. Well, in other news, Donald Trump versus Obama. Trump's eyeing for third term amid latest amendment push. Donald Trump is on cloud nine, the newly appointed president, who is currently serving his second term as the head of state after winning the elections against Kamala Harris, has made waves in the media right after his return with the agenda to make America great again. With immediate implementation of new policies alongside enforcing robust law and order, Trump is here to spare no one this time. However, if you thought that was all Donald Trump wished to do, you were mistaken. He's reportedly seriously considering running for office for a fourth time in a row, and he's planning on putting plans in place to confirm he's legally able to do so. For context, the 22nd Amendment of the American Constitution states that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. Congressman Andy Ogles has proposed a constitutional amendment that would allow Trump to serve a total of 12 years if he were to win again in 4 years. Ogles argued that the amendment would enable a president who has served non-consecutive terms to seek a third term, effectively switching the limitations set by the 22nd Amendment. He believes this change is necessary to undo what he perceives as damage caused by the Biden administration, suggesting it may take Trump a decade to fully address these issues. However, if passed, the amendment will not only allow Trump another run, but will also open the door for Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and George Bush to return to the presidency. Does this mean that we could see all the prominent former presidents in power once again? Perhaps yes. As per the Irish Star, while Barack Obama has not shown any interest in running again, his public appearances continue to generate enthusiasm, leading some to assume that the Democrats might consider bringing him back if Trump seeks another term. But people have looked to X to share their thoughts on the potential amendment. Some users say the authors wanted to ensure Obama couldn't run again in case he could beat Donald Trump. Donald Trump and Obama were spotted at former President Jimmy Carter's funeral, giggling to glory. The gesture surprised people as both individuals previously had severe clashes of opinions. Moreover, Ogles justified that the actions will give Trump every possible resource to correct the disastrous course set by the Joe Biden administration. But meanwhile, the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution was ratified in 1951 after President Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected to a third term amidst World War II. He happened to be the only president to do so. Furthermore, in his inaugural address, he outlined key issues his administration intends to tackle, including actions on deportation, energy policies, tariffs, and economic reforms. Donald Trump also announced a national emergency at the southern border, with measures aimed at battling immigration and deporting criminal immigrants. Additionally, he emphasized his administration's commitment to revitalizing the economy and addressing other pressing national concerns. Musk takes control of the US Treasury payment systems. Elon Musk aides have taken control of the US Treasury Department's payment system, which manages trillions of dollars of transactions each year, sparking alarm among critics. Musk, the world's richest person, is leading President Donald Trump's federal cost-cutting efforts under the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. The corruption and waste is being rooted out in real time, Musk posted on Sunday on his X platform he owns. Later replying to a post outlining alleged payments to Lutheran charities, Musk said Doge was rapidly shutting down these illegal payments. The Treasury closely regarded payment system handles the money flow of the US government, including $6 trillion annually for Social Security, Medicare, federal salaries, and other critical payments. Musk's control of the payment system was approved by incoming Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and was made possible when a carrier official was put on administrative leave on Friday after refusing to hand over access. The official subsequently retired from the department, a source close to the matter told AFP, and Trump on Sunday praised Musk as a big cost cutter. Sometimes he won't agree with it and he will not go where he wants to go. Musk added on his tweet page, well, news outlet Wired was first reported Musk has placed young surrogates working for Doge into key government positions, with his team gaining unprecedented access to the payment systems typically restricted to carrier employees. The staff, reportedly aged between 19 and 24, were also placed at the Federal Office of Personnel Management and the HR Department for Public Workers that sent out an email last week offering most employees a chance to leave the government on immediate notice with about 9 months' pay. Democratic lawmakers have expressed deep concerns about political operators having access to the US government's money flow, pointing to possible systemic risks to the economy. Elizabeth Warren, the top Democrat on the Senate Banking Committee, blasted the move in a letter to Benson as extraordinarily dangerous. I'm alarmed that as one of the first acts as secretary, you appear to have handed over a highly sensitive system responsible for millions of Americans' private data and a key function of government to an unelected billionaire and unknown number of his unqualified flunkies, wrote Warren on her Twitter page. She also said that sidelining experienced staff in this crucial corner of government puts the country at a greater risk of defaulting on our debt, which could trigger a global financial crisis. On X, Musk predicted excitement guaranteed in response to a post that said Doge would uncover an unprecedented amount of fraud and corruption in numerous government departments. Thank you for listening to The Lens. Stay tuned every Monday from 7 p.m.